road. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell.
All right, good morning, everybody. Are you ready to red, white, and raise hell? It is Tuesday. How about it? 27th morning, first month, year of our Lord, 2026. I like today's quote. My quote a day flip calendar that I've had for 35 years. I really should start each show by reading what each one is. 27th of January, progress always involves risk. You can't steal second base while keeping your foot on first. Very, very true. You got to leave the safety in the bag and go get things done. Frederick Wilcox, credit for that one. So that's where we start this morning. I appreciate you being with us. Coming up, and I'm wearing Freedom today again. Every so often, I kind of got it in the rotation, if you will. Because we've got Turning Point on the show today. Brandon Rossi is a field rep, Northeast Ohio field rep for Turning Point Action. And you may not know the difference between Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. It's one of the reasons why Brandon's going to be here, by the way, to explain that. Turning Point USA, that was Charlie's crew and organization that went to the campuses to try to inform and educate. They're about the culture. And Turning Point Action is about cranking out voters. It's about winning elections, and Brandon is going to be with us to talk about the battle here in the with the midterms looming. So that'll be coming up at the top of the second hour. So Brandon Rossi of Turning Point, and that's why I'm doing Charlie Kirk. It's my favorite. This was gifted to me, by the way. My wife actually got it for me, or gave it to me, I should say. Somebody else gave it to her because it didn't fit them. And it was a gift, and I wear it. I don't know. I love wearing it. I'm reminded of Charlie. Do you have any of the Freedom gear? And there's knockoff Freedom gear, and then there's actual Turning Point Freedom gear. I remember trying to get some of it before Christmas. Remember, Charlie was assassinated in September, so that period of time before Christmas, a lot of people said, "Yeah, that's a perfect Christmas gift." Is giving, Charlie Kirk was wearing this exact, a white shirt, of course, with the very direct and simple black lettering of freedom at the time that he was murdered. And a lot of people wanted to do that. The backlog, the order stuff from the actual Turning Point USA website, it was like 16 weeks. If you were trying to order sometime in November, it was like you were going to have to wait till like April to get it. So it was never happening for Christmas. I know because I put on my little wish list to my wife, if you're interested in, what I'm looking for Christmas. And I put a hat, a Turning Point USA hat, a couple of Freedom shirts, pullover, and blah, blah, blah. Because it reminds me, quite frankly, it just, the reason I like wearing this and the reason I asked for a bunch of things I didn't get from the Turning Point USA actual website because of the backlog of orders. And that's why I think this one is probably a knockoff. Like I said, I didn't buy it. It was a gift to, my wife got it from somebody else who couldn't wear it. And I think it's one of the knockoff ones, which isn't great, but it sends the message to me. And obviously everybody who sees it is reminded of Charlie and what made Charlie so special. And I don't know. That still hits me, pretty hard. I think about Charlie Kirk's murder probably more often than I should. It's probably because I still do what I do and trying to build and grow this mission that we are on together. I'm never going to forget, the impact that 31-year-old, I'm almost twice his age, but I looked up to him inspirationally, and I think so many other people did, and they should too. That I pointed, and that's because there's the picture again. I'm going to throw this up there. Sorry, this is how sometimes the show starts because I don't plan things out. Or rather, I plan things out, but then I get very easily distracted by other things that are important to me, including the shirt and the calendar and so forth. But see the painting behind me? I've talked about this before. I'm going to put it on the screen right now so you can recall this and take advantage of this. The artwork behind me, those are extraordinary. Those are not photographs, and they're not AI, and they're not digital. They're not computer. They're paint. Now, these are prints. These are not the originals. These are prints of actual paintings done by Ray Simon, who's a Northeast Ohio artist. And these were gifted to me by Ray and his agent / manager. And these were gifted to me at a Strongsville GOP Christmas party, or the Strongsville GOP Christmas party. And the Trump one, which is directly over my shoulder, that one actually hangs in the White House. And the original from which this print is made. And then the one of Charlie is just so extraordinary. That one actually hangs in Mar-a-Lago. President Trump likes it so much. Ray Simon, like I said, the painter, the artist, has done commissionings for President Trump, obviously, with that extraordinary work over my shoulder. And, he did the Charlie one. He's doing one for several other. He likes to capture conservatism, both history and present, in oils, in paint. He's remarkable. And he's right here in Northeast Ohio. Anyway, like I said, I was gifted those. And if you look on the screen, like the paintings behind me, go to raysimon.art, just like you see there, and use the promo code Frantz for 30% off of your choice. And by the way, I could pull it up. I don't know if I have time really to chase the squirrel, but this is what I do sometimes. Yeah, I don't know if I can do it right now, but if you go to raysimon.art, what you will find is not just the Trump and the Charlie Kirk paintings that you see behind me, which, like I said, I put these in my studio immediately when I got them. I knew exactly what I was going to do with them. I was going to put them in my studio. They just are perfect for there and for what I do. Pick the room. Look at your house. Look at your, I don't care if it's your den, your family room, your your gathering, whatever it is that you just picture that on your wall. It's extraordinary. And it's not just them, but he's got Lincoln, he's got Marines, he's got Jesus Christ, he's got paintings and portraits and things that are just incredible. And I love them. And I really do. I'm proud to have those on my wall behind me. They'll be a part of my decor for a very, 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 very long time to come. And you can do it too. Like I said, raysimon.art, raysimon.art, and use the promo code France. Save yourself some money. And by the way, when you do that, they provide support for the show. Every time you buy from raysimon.art, Ray Simon supports this show financially, which is, needless to say, essential. The show cannot go on without financial support. So that's just something, like I said, unplanned. But I just the Charlie Kirk shirt, or the messaging and the Charlie Kirk behind me, just kind of made me chase that squirrel. So thank you, everybody, for coming in this morning. Let me have a look, see in the chat and see what's going on there and how many folks are up and active. Don't forget, when you come in, number one, make sure you slam that like button for sure. The first thing, as soon as you come into this live stream, slam that like button. And also make sure that you send it to somebody else. Send the link to somebody else and say, hey, meet me in this chat room. Meet me right now as we watch and listen to Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, and meet us in the chat. You got to bring some folks with you. That is the goal. Having said that, good morning, KC John. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Joanne. Good morning, B. Morgan. Good morning, CAD. Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Yo Jimbo. Good morning, Jake, Jacqueline, Queen Mother 62, SRL, Roz, Far West Sider, Sarah, Liberty Bell. Who else do I have in here? Fed Up Granny, Lisa, Black Belt 8. Good morning, all of you. I appreciate you guys all being here this morning. So I got some things that I want to share to start out. That some are going to be inspirational and make you feel good, and some are going to make you probably grind your gears. That's a Family Guy reference for those who don't recall. What grinds my gears is lunatics and leftists who want and are planning the overall destruction of the culture that built the constitutional foundation that built this country. That's what they're doing. Make no mistake about it. We'll talk more about that in a short while. But something hopeful I want to share with you right off the rip here. And it comes from, of all places, CNN. If I told you I was going to bring you something hopeful from CNN, what would you say? I'm a nut, obviously. CNN doesn't do hopeful things, but CNN does occasionally report on the people by way of the polling. And yes, I'm going to share this with you now. And I'll give you the little backstory here. January 21st, 2025, so this is from 6 days ago, newly released polling data shows that the majority of Americans support deporting everyone who is in the country illegally. The American people were clear and certain about what they wanted. Trump promised mass deportations and was elected to keep that promise. Democrats will not let it happen with the help of the evil MSM, the mainstream media, and they're making this country insane. Last year, a gang member, human trafficker, wife abuser was deported. Democrats turned that into a months-long crusade to save the Maryland man. The MSM refused to report the facts. Alex Padilla got himself removed from press conferences so he could cry about it on TV. Cory Booker set the world record for the longest cry. Democrat politicians stormed ICE facilities. The media called the rioting in LA peaceful. Newsom, Walz, Pritzker, Murphy, and the rest started with ICE Nazi comparisons. The lunatics were summoned. ICE was being attacked and shot at before anything happened in Minnesota. Now here come the celebrities, the pundits, and politicians and mainstream media in unison with their abusive talking point. This is not normal. What's happening right now is not normal. They cause chaos and then say it's not normal that there's chaos. And then they can make the chaos go away if we just abandon what we wanted and give them power. It's straight up abuse. Don't fall for it. It's a great message there. Now I want to share with you the CNN poll that I think truly should give you hope.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters. Feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish, and I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally, want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and illegal immigration. Look at this. Last year, 55%. That is the highest level since the 9/11 aftermath. You go back just to 2020.
This again, legal and
Legal
illegal. So people want less people coming into the country.
Exactly. They want less people coming into the country. Look at that. That's a 14-point rise from 2023. You go back to 2016 when Donald Trump again was running for president the first time, it was 38%. That's a 17-point rise. So the bottom line is more folks want people who are here illegally deported, and their overall feelings towards immigration have become considerably more hawkish.
63% say they're okay with deporting immigrants who are here illegally and arrived in the last 4 years. 87% are good with deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have criminal records.
All right. That last one is extraordinary. Let's round that up. Did you learn rounding when you were in elementary math? 87% rounds up to 90. So we're going to go to 90%. 9 out of every 10 Americans asked want to deport every single illegal alien that is here and that is a criminal. Okay? Deporting immigrants with criminal records, illegal aliens here who have criminal records, 9 out of 10. Okay? Guess what? That's what ICE is doing in Minnesota. That's what ICE was doing in Chicago. It's what ICE is doing in Memphis. It's what ICE is doing in New Orleans. It's what ICE is doing in Portland. Everywhere they are, do you know what they're doing? They're doing what 9 out of 10 Americans want them to do. So says CNN, of all places. CNN. Now, that poll was taken back in the first week of 2026, January 2nd to January 10th. That survey, 9 out of 10 say, "Go get them, folks. Go get them." Here we are going to get them, and the 1 out of 10, the 10%. I mean, if you want to do that, you know, if there's 1,000 people, 900 of them want every single criminal illegal alien deported right now. The 100 are going outside and attacking agents. The 100 are the ones that are attacking hotels and trying to create damage and chaos and noise and vandalism and so forth, so that the ICE agents who are in town to do the job, to do what 9 out of 10 people want to do, so that they can't rest at night, so that they're intimidated and driven off and forced to quit and so on and so forth. It's not happening, but that's the goal. So, you know, like I said, if you got 900, if you got 10,000 people, that means 9,000 of them want all of these criminal illegal aliens deported now. 1,000 of them are gathering together in Minneapolis. That's just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of the scale. Some of the other numbers that he pointed to here are also very inspirational and very, very hopeful. How many adults in America last year, 2 years ago during the 2024 election cycle, wanted all illegal aliens, not just those with criminal records, all illegal aliens who are in this country illegally. How many people wanted them gone? In 2024, the year President Trump was elected, that number was among all adults. This isn't about demographics. It's not about, white adults, black adults, Hispanic. No, just adults, all 18 and over. 56% of the people wanted all illegals deported, period. End of story. Why do you think Donald Trump won in a landslide? Because he said, I'll do it. But what makes that interesting is 10 years ago, when President Trump was running for the very first time in 2016, that number was 36%. And Trump made that the centerpiece of his campaign when he became President 45. He said, yeah, we're going to deport them. We're going to build a big, beautiful wall. And it's going to have a door in it so that people can come through legally. And it's going to have a door in it so we can deport people as well. But that's it. 36% of the people at that time said, yeah, get them all out of here. Well, the second go round with Trump in 2024, that number climbed up to 56%. It was 20% higher. That's extraordinary. So he's doing what he was asked to do. He's surging federal resources, federal deportation task forces in all of these cities where massive numbers of criminal illegal aliens are. He is, and they are doing exactly what they said, worst first, right? But yeah, but we're going to go get those worst people, the ones that 90% of Americans want gone. And then while we're on the job, especially since we're encountering so many others who are not among the worst first, they're not necessarily the criminal aliens, but they're just here illegally. When we encounter them, because we're going after the worst first, and the sanctuary states are not cooperating, and we've got to go and hunt them down. When we hunt them down, guess what? Most illegal aliens do. Guess who they usually hang out with? Other illegal aliens. So if you're going after the worst first and you find, a dozen other people who are here legally, it's so sorry, bye-bye. That's the way it works. And then this was the other number there that I just want to really, really, hone in on. What Harry Enton on CNN pointed out. We are a nation that is sick and tired of being overrun by foreigners. All foreigners, meaning legal or illegal. Look at where we are. In 2016, again, Trump's first campaign and victory, 38% said not deport, but shut down all legal and illegal immigration. Don't let anybody else in. We can't handle any more right now. All right? From a strictly a resources and financial standpoint, we cannot continue to support and give away all of the free things we do to people who come into this country legally or illegally. The jobs need to be in the possession of American workers. All of the different things that people decided. This was 38% when Trump ran the first time. When he ran the second time, there you have it in 2024. That number is up to 55%. That's the current state of the people today. 55%. That's strong of a majority. If you win an election 55 to 45, you have won a landslide. You win by double digits, you've won a landslide. Well, 55% of the people in this country want all immigration stopped, at least temporarily. J.D. Vance, our vice president, said the same thing. We need to put a halt to all immigration. Anybody else is waiting in line patiently, keep waiting, because we got to shut it down for a while we get a handle on who's here and what they're doing. First of all, are they working or are they absorbing American unemployment compensation? Are they working and earning their own health benefits and paying for their own health care, or are they being subsidized by the taxpayers and the check earners like you and me? Are they assimilating? Are they learning our language so that they can be a part of our community, or are they balkanizing themselves and others like them around the country? We have to ask ourselves, are they here to actually make America a better place, or are they here to weaken America by collecting American dollars and sending them back home to their homelands, like Somalia, which is what the Somali grift is all about? All of those are very, very fair questions that we have to ask ourselves. Of those who are here now, what are they doing? And then maybe most importantly, are they voting? And if they're voting, what can we do to stop that? That's one of the reasons why Vice President Vance and others have said what we need to do right now is halt all illegal immigration all legal and illegal immigration until we get a handle on who's here, and we deport those who should not be here. And again, we put the people who are allowed to stay on the right track. They cannot be voting. I want to share a couple of lines with you here, videos, excuse me, underscoring this. This one, let me bring it up. This one is the Minnesota Secretary of State, who was on CNN again with Jake Tapper. See, these people won't go on Fox, so you got to get them from CNN. And sometimes CNN accidentally slips and creates an accidental act of journalism. But anyway, the current Minnesota Secretary of State just confirmed that they are panicked and hiding voter roll data from the Trump DOJ because the Trump DOJ wants to naturally clean illegal aliens from the rolls. And I want you to watch this exchange. This is why we need to know who's here and what are their intentions and what are they doing.
So you oversee the voter rolls. What kind of information do they contain? What do you think Bondi is after? Are they going after undocumented immigrants who would vote? Although I would guess there aren't that many of them, if any.
If any.
Well, here's what they want. They don't just want the public stuff, which anyone can get, name, address, voting history, stuff like that. What they want is very personal, private, sensitive data on millions of people, namely social security numbers, driver's license numbers, military service history where applicable. And this is already in litigation. Like, we're in court on this right now. They've asked for this information from dozens of states. The vast majority, like Minnesota, have said no. There are multiple lawsuits going on, including in Minnesota right now. So that's what makes this particularly puzzling. Why they want it? That's a good question. That's sort of key to the legal arguments here. Our legal position all along, before this weekend ransom note from the Attorney General, was that state and federal law don't permit them to get this data. And so what she's basically asking us for in this letter is to hand something over which we think the law precludes her from getting under these circumstances.
What she's asking for is for you to prove that the extraordinary number of illegal aliens who have decided to make your state home, including and especially hundreds of thousands of Somalis, to make sure they're not voting. That's what this is about. And if we just went ahead and passed the SAVE Act, which we did in the House, but John Thune, the Republican majority leader in the Senate, John Thune will not allow, because there just doesn't seem to be any, quite frankly, any balls left in the Republican majority. There just aren't enough of them. There aren't enough of them willing to do what needs to be done, which is to pass the SAVE Act and make everyone prove at registration that they are American citizens. If they prove they're American citizens at registration, all of the rest of this stuff becomes unnecessary. So until we pass that, we've got to go into the places like Minnesota, where there are massive numbers of illegals, and we need to find out who is registered to vote, who is on those voter rolls. How do you do that? We got to check social security numbers. Yes, we got to check driver's license numbers. All of these things have to be done to make sure that we have a free and fair election. The Democrats like to constantly talk about democracy, democracy, democracy. It's all about democracy. Okay, it's all about democracy. What are we doing to protect democracy if illegals are completely tainting our election results? Second one I want to share with you is the Attorney General in the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, as he freaks out listening here, you'll hear it, about the Trump DOJ asking for his state's voter rolls to purge illegals and other ineligibles. Listen to this one.
Ask you, the judge seemed to focus on a couple of things, Pam Bondi's letter, and also the president's social media post about a day of retribution. She appeared, especially talking about the Pam Bondi letter, she appeared critical. Is that the way you saw it, and do you think those two things are helping your case?
Let me just say, I think that the judge is incredibly bright and is focusing on the critical issues. I'm not sure what to conclude or based on her questions, but it appeared to me, and I got the sense that she understood the issues very well. And I'll just say on my own behalf that the Pam Bondi letter kind of reveals what this is all about. This is not about fraud, and it's not even about immigration, and it's certainly not about law enforcement. It's about handing over documents of the state of Minnesota, private information, including voting information, to the federal government. That's what this is about.
It is about all of those things, you freaking quarter wit. It is about all of those things. It is about fraud and hundreds of billions of dollars being stolen from the American taxpayers' paychecks and from their wallets and from their purses, and being given to people like Ilhan Omar and her cadre of illegal alien. Well, many of them have actually been, thanks to Biden and Obama before them, allowed to come into this country and stay. They're not illegal, but they're doing illegal things with our money. They're defrauding the government, and that means defrauding the people in our tax dollars. It is about fraud. It is about crime. It is about law enforcement. And yes, it's about elections. All of those things matter. How do you not understand that? How do you call into question why the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, would want that information? because we need to know exactly how crooked and criminal the state of Minnesota really has become. And it's not recent. It's just now reaching its zenith. It's not a recent development. Minnesota has been on this track toward becoming the most lawless state in America for some time. And that's saying something, because America still contains California, and it still contains Oregon, and it still contains Washington State, Washington, D.C., for that matter. There are a lot of very, very, very lawless places in this country, all of them. Repeat, all of them. Big blue cities, or blue cities in blue or red states, or just all straight up blue states. That's the most lawless of the American population. And we're seeing it every single day in Minneapolis and Minnesota more broadly. All right. Let's stay. Why the hell not? We're going to stay on CNN here for this reason. Casey Hunt, one of the journalists, anchors at CNN. Speaking of the violence in Minneapolis, Casey Hunt says people should be pointing the guns at the Trump administration as the Trump administration tries to crack down on the extraordinary levels of violence that have been directed at federal agents who are simply enforcing American law. American law passed by Congress, American law signed by President Bill Clinton, and that's the expanded deportation laws from 1996. These mostly men, but these men and women of ICE and of from the Border Patrol, federal government, are doing the job that was asked of them by Congress and by the current president and former presidents in deporting these individuals. And Casey Hunt says maybe the gun should be pointed at the Trump administration.
I want to bring back a tweet from Charlie Kirk in 2018. He says this: the Second Amendment's not for hunting, it's not for self-protection. It is there to ensure that free people can defend themselves if, God forbid, government became tyrannical and turned against its citizens. And I think a lot of people are pointing to this because, I mean, what we saw in the streets.
What did we see in the streets, you babbling buffoon? What did we see in the streets? We saw lawlessness. You didn't see tyranny. You saw lawful orders. Reminder, the key word there is lawful. We saw lawful orders being given to American law enforcement personnel by the President of the United States to uphold the laws that were passed by Congress and signed by a previous president. All right? That's all this is. The fact that these laws, these laws, and this one particular law in 1996, which was the expanded Deportation Act, that wasn't its title, but it was signed by President Clinton, was used by President Clinton to deport an extraordinary number of illegals. No protests, no violence, no attacks on federal agents, no attacks on then INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services. Okay? Nobody had a problem with it. That was continued under George Bush. Protests. Lots of protests. Not to the level we are now under Trump, but lots of protests because this was a Republican president trying to deport illegal aliens. And it was an attack on, they said that was an attack on black and brown people. Barack Obama gets elected. One of said black or brown people. Barack Obama starts deporting using ICE. CNN, same CNN, sends out crews, video crews and reporters embedded with them in the back of ICE vehicles, going around various cities and looking for the worst of the worst. Worst first, right? Illegal aliens with final orders of deportation and those with criminal records or criminal charges pending against them. Got to get them got to get them out of here. CNN covers it. No protests. Completely peaceful. Good, sound law enforcement being practiced. Right? Donald Trump wins. Donald Trump continues under the same law the same exact law that was signed by Clinton in 1996 and says, go get them, ICE. And suddenly, holy hell, we can't have that. We are going to fight the government at every single turn, every step of the way, and call the government tyrannical. Was it tyrannical when Bill Clinton used the law? No. Was it tyrannical when Barack Obama used the law? No. Donald Trump is using the same law signed by the same guy, and now it's tyranny, and the American people should bring their guns to protests and point them at the government, which is what Casey Hunt just suggested. Point those guns at the government because that's what the Second Amendment is for, to fight back against tyranny. It's tyranny now. Do these people ever process thoughts inside their little craniums before letting those thoughts become words and spew forth to the American people on broadcast television? Do they ever even think before they speak? You're suggesting that the same laws applied under Obama and Clinton that are being used right now, then they're law enforcement. Today, they're tyranny? Explain it. You can't. This is textbook, medical journal grade Trump derangement syndrome. If you ask 3 people to do something, I don't care what it is. If the first one does it and you say, well done, and the second one does it identically and you say, well done, and the third one does it identically and you say, criminal, you say, tyrant, king, mono, whatever you want to call it, whatever your worst moniker is for a leader like this, when all 3 do the same thing, 2 of them are praised, one of them is castigated. Guess what? The problem is you. It's not him. It's not the leader. So Casey Hunt says, bring the guns, which brings me to a little bit more about the shooting of Alex Preddy. I covered this yesterday as deeply as I want to cover it. We went through it frame by frame with a police detective who knows a thing or two about skirmishes, fights, apprehending and resisting suspects, guns, the presence of guns in the hands of those who are being aggressive and physically confrontational with police. Steve Loomis broke it down for us on yesterday's episode, point by point by point, frame by frame by frame. So I'm not going to relitigate all of that. What I am going to do, because it's over. I mean, seriously, that case is closed. We broke it down for you. You saw him resisting and fighting officers and then reaching down to his holster and pulling up. And after the alert had already been sounded, gun, 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 he reaches, and that's enough. Good night. Again, if you are if you are being confronted by police and he says, show me your hands, and instead of showing your hands, you reach in your pocket, he doesn't know if you're reaching for your wallet, your cell phone, your candy bar, or your gun. He's not going to wait to find out because cops get to go home too. This guy reached. It's over. The only thing I want to say about this that I didn't say yesterday as much is about the idea about guns at protests. The FBI director, Kash Patel, who I think otherwise is doing a damn good job, I think stuck his foot in his mouth yesterday, as did some other people, by saying, who would ever bring a gun to a protest? If you're coming to a peaceful protest, you wouldn't bring a gun. Well, that was a foolish thing to say. It was a foolish thing to say. There have been many a Trump rally, and rallies and protests, whether you're chanting or whatever, they are sometimes, sisters. All right. They're not identical, but they're sisters. They can kind of exist in the same space. I've been to many Trump rallies, and I've seen many Trump rallies covered in which Second Amendment rights are defended and Second Amendment rights are practiced, and people are packing. They're carrying their weapons. Now, the difference is at those protests and rallies and so on and so forth, they literally are peaceful. People bring them because they're allowed to bring them, and they are Second Amendment supporters, and they kind of want to show that. Number 2, there have been too many Trump / conservative events and rallies and so on and so forth that have been infiltrated by the likes of Antifa. We've seen it. We've seen videos of them changing clothes and putting on Trump gear in order to go into crowds and then hold up signs that are, horrific messaging that try to portray the group and the Trump group as being racist or Nazis or whatever. They'll hold up swastikas. So knowing that Antifa and other rabble-rousers can come into events like that and cause problems, people do carry their weapons for self-defense. And Kash Patel did not articulate that very well. He just said nobody who wants to go to a peaceful protest should go there with a gun. That is not true. He needs to step that back. He really does. But I'm going to do it for him to this extent. What he really intended to say is, if you are going to bring a gun to a protest, and you know that the protests that have been going on there for days, weeks, have been violent, and you want to bring your gun to that potentially violent situation, you don't lay hands on law enforcement. You don't get involved in physical confrontations with cops or deputies or troopers or federal agents. You announce to them that you are armed because it is your duty to report that you are carrying a firearm when confronted by a police officer, and whether it's a traffic stop or an event like this. And whether it's a mandatorily duty to report state or it isn't, it's just common sense. If you're going to go talk to an officer or yell at an officer, first of all, you don't touch him, you let him. But second of all, you let him know you've got a weapon, because that immediately puts everybody where they need to be, which means all on the same level psychologically, mentally. Now, I know that this is a potential threat. Don't get violent, right? But you go up and you don't tell them, and then you accost a federal agent because you didn't like that federal agent moving one of your colleagues, one of your other radical protesters who are there to commit federal violations of federal laws, including obstructing, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement or federal officers doing their jobs. And these idiots are doing exactly that. They're getting shoved out of the way, or they're getting shoved to the ground. This guy didn't like one of his fellow lunatics being shoved to the ground, so he goes and accosts a police officer a federal agent while strapped, which is a recipe for what exactly happened. Disaster. I bring this up because I'm seeing some infighting in the conservative movement. There's some infighting about whether or not it's okay to bring a gun to a protest, and that Alex Preddy's extended magazine, handgun, and then 2 additional magazines that he brought, which were being painted by some in the Department of Homeland Security as being a crime in and of itself. It is not a crime to carry your sidearm. It is not a crime to carry extended magazines. I've got a waist belt. It's not really it's a holster, but it's not like a traditional holster, but a waist belt that I can wear underneath. Actually, it'd be perfect with this baggy or sweatshirt or hoodie that I'm wearing. But it's a Velcro band, and it's got the holster for the sidearm over here, but it's got 4 or 5 different pockets for other things, including magazines. It is absolutely not against the law, particularly if you have a permit in a state like Minnesota, or it's an open constitutional carry state like Ohio. But there's nothing wrong with carrying the gun. Nobody is saying that Alex Preddy deserved to die because he carried a gun and 2 additional magazines to the protest. He died because he carried those and then confronted and physically accosted and then physically resisted detainment and arrest by fighting the officers every step of the way. And while armed, and then an officer sees that gun and informs the others that there's a gun, and then he reaches. That's why people are saying don't bring a gun to a violent protest. And it's not don't bring one because you might have to at some point defend yourself. But when you are not defensive, you are the one on the attack. You are the one then doing the resisting. The fact that gun, the presence of your gun, has led to another gun being discharged against you, that is a you situation. That is a you problem. So to my conservative friends who are online and arguing on television, and talking about, Kash Patel said, nobody who is going to a peaceful protest should ever bring a gun. Stop that. Pull that back. Walk that back. Explain what you mean. All right? Bringing a gun wherever you want to is a Second Amendment right. We have to support that. I support that. And that means even if you're going to a protest. But number one, make sure that you understand the law. And number two, know that if you're going to a place that has already been violent against, and we're not talking about a gang war. It's not like there's Bloods over here and Crips over here, and you're going down to watch and you're going to bring your gun as two violent groups go at it. There's law enforcement, and then there are violent anarchists attacking said law enforcement. It's not mutual combatants coming down the street like the West Side Story. It's not an equal battle. It's cops who aren't battling anybody. They're trying to arrest bad guys, criminal, illegal, alien bad guys. And they're being impeded, obstructed, and assaulted by lunatics who have been riled up by governors and mayors and media. If you attend that and then you join in that assault on the law enforcement officers who are also armed, you are walking into your own nightmare, a nightmare of your own creation. It doesn't mean he did not have a right to carry that gun. Alex Preddy had a right, and according to all reports, he had a permit for it. He was allowed to carry that gun and, yes, 2 additional magazines, but you do not get to attack law enforcement while doing it. If you're there for the show just to stand by and watch, and you're keeping your gun on your hip in case something goes crazy and comes at you, hey, that's self-defense. If you're just there to eat popcorn and watch it all happen, but if you are there to participate in it and you arm yourself and you are part of those who attack the law enforcement officers, what's going to happen is what did happen. And everybody needs to know that. All right, what else do I want to get to? Did I mention Brandon Rossi is coming up? Brandon Rossi, field rep, Northeast Ohio field rep for Turning Point Action is coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to talk about where Turning Point goes from here, both Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. There's a difference. He'll explain where they go from here. What is the mission? What is the goal post Charlie Kirk? And what is the mission and what is the goal right now in 2026? Because the midterm elections will determine the future fate of this country. So let's see what else I want to get here. Oh, you want one more CNN lunatic? I can probably provide that for you here. Let me give you one more CNN lunatic. This time, not one of the hosts or hostesses. This time, one of the guests of one of the hosts. Jake Tapper just seems to find these sorts of people for whatever reason. But watch this guy. Typical, almost stereotypical, left-wing, beanie wearing, probably gauged. I can't quite see from that picture, nut jobs, talking about Minnesota and ICE and law enforcement operations there. Just absorb it.
I understand that, but they take people to Fort Snelling here, which literally was built as a concentration camp, and Alligator Alcatraz, which I think we can all agree is a concentration camp. Not saying they're Dachau. I'm not saying they're putting people in ovens yet, but these are concentration camps.
Okay.
These are the people that CNN gives oxygen to. They give air and air time to people who are going to come on there. This is supposedly a business owner in Minnesota who actually came on there and said they're not putting people into ovens yet, which, according to my understanding of the language, means that is still to come. It's not happening yet. It is to happen in the future. It should go without saying, any response to that should be obvious, and I'll check in and see what the chatters have to say about that in a moment. It should be fairly obvious what that lunatic just said and how ridiculous it is. But we got to take it to another level. We got to take another step, because that guy, that beanie hat wearing business owner who said they're not in ovens yet, it's kind of sort of not all his fault. What do I mean by that? I mean, you remember what Tampon Tim said, right? Tampon Tim, just the day before, compared criminal illegal aliens, the worst of the worst, the ones that Tom Homan and team are going after first, the killers, rapists, assaulters, traffickers, both human and drug, terrorists. Those people were compared by Tampon Tim Walz to Anne Frank. Anne Frank and her family hiding in the attic from the Nazis to avoid being sent to the concentration camps and ultimately murdered. Anne Frank was like a criminal illegal alien in America today, going after the criminal aliens who are in this country who have convictions or charges against them for violent crimes, not to mention their status as illegal aliens here. They are like Anne Frank. Anne Frank is like them. So can we be surprised when one of the Minnesota business owners there put on CNN says, yeah, they're going to put them in ovens soon. Haven't done it yet, but we know those are concentration camps and that's what they're going to do. When reason and common sense take leave, it's really, really hard to get anything done from there. What else do I want to get to? Okay. The next thing I want to get to is the press conference. Caroline Leavitt held a press conference yesterday, as she does virtually every day, giving that press briefing. And one of the most important things that she spoke of at the briefing, and this was reported yesterday, we talked about it a little bit, that President Trump did speak with Tampon Tim. Tim Walz, who for days and weeks has been attacking the Trump administration, literally calling the same ICE agents that once were considered good law enforcement officers when Barack Obama used them 10, 12 years ago. The same agents are now the Gestapo, according to Tim Walz. They're the Gestapo. So yesterday, Caroline Leavitt at the press conference was asked about and spoke about, let me turn this back on. There we go. Was asked about President Trump's conversation with Tim Walz. Tim Walz, the man who again compared Trump to Hitler and his ICE agents to the Gestapo in ramping up the rhetoric and ramping up the violence and the levels of rage on the streets of his state. President Trump sat down with him, or not didn't sit down, but had a phone call with him. President Trump announced this. This is how we talked about it yesterday on Truth Social, and called it a very productive call and said we actually have some agreements and we hope to build on those. I don't like it. I don't like it. Does that mean I don't want cooperation among authorities? No. But I don't like what it signals. I don't like the fact that it signals that President Donald J. Trump is going to give in 1 inch to Governor Jazz Hands, because Jazz Hands has created such a massive, massive state of chaos and anarchy in his state by telling the citizens to go out there and interject themselves into law enforcement operations. Bring your cameras and record every agent, knowing that they're going to get too close, get in their faces, start to push and shove and create confrontations. They're going to lead to bloodshed. That's what Tampon Tim did. President Trump, in my estimation, should have got him on the phone and said, hey, Tampon, go to hell. Click. That's what he should have done, in my opinion. Is that going to get anything done? No, but I don't want to get the sense that President Trump is willing to cooperate or negotiate with anything that Tampon Tim Walz says or does. But here's what Caroline said at the presser.
Moving these threats from our country in cities from Los Angeles to New York and, yes, Minneapolis. Yet Democrat leaders in Minnesota with sanctuary city policies have actively defied federal immigration law and the will of the people. And as a result of that defiance, 2 Minnesotans have now tragically lost their lives on the streets of Tim Walz's state. It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. Number one, Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with any illegal aliens with active warrants or known criminal histories for immediate deportation. Number two, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens who are arrested by local police. And then thirdly, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes.
See, this is the part, again, if this is what President Trump is asking for in a negotiation with the tampon, then we're already behind, because those things should not be a part of a negotiation. Those things should be expected, because law enforcement is supposed to practice the enforcement of the law. And the law says criminal aliens who are arrested should be turned over to the federal government. Criminal aliens who are arrested should be held by local authorities until the federal government takes them. All of these things are normal. This isn't like here, I'll tell you what, I'll give a little if you give a little. I don't like the tone of this negotiation. These are things that should be absolutely demanded and done, or defunding happens. I don't understand the point here of we're asking you to do your job, and in return, what will we do? What do we have to give? Do you understand the point that I'm making here? Tim Walz is the governor of a sanctuary state, a horrible, horrible sanctuary state. And Jacob Frey, the mayor of maybe the worst sanctuary city in the country. They have ordered their state and local law enforcement to not help ICE, to not cooperate, and to literally stand by while the civilians of that radical state, while the civilians attack law enforcement, federal law enforcement. These people, like I said, this should not be a negotiation. This should not be some sort of a discussion. It should be a demand. Do your job, or that's it. No more funding for your state at all. Not a nickel. Good luck. Find your way. And by the way, while we defund you, we're still surging our resources there to do the jobs that you won't do. And if your people get hurt because you keep riling them up, that is also a you problem.
Especially violent crimes. If Governor Walz and Mayor Frey implement these common sense cooperative measures that, I will add, have already been implemented in nearly every single other state across the country, Customs and Border Patrol will not be needed to support ICE on the ground in Minnesota. ICE and local law enforcement can peacefully work together, as they are effectively doing in so many other states and jurisdictions.
That last part is true, and I'm fine with that. Yes, ICE absolutely does that in multiple jurisdictions, and they do it successfully. And there's no problem in a lot of places, but a lot of places aren't Minnesota. I'm telling you, it is the most radical of radical. That's the kind of a clumsy way of saying it, but it's the most radical of a bunch of radicals in various locations. And the fact that President Trump is kind of giving a hint or a suggestion that we'll give you what you want, we'll remove the federal agents from the ground if you'll do A, B, C, D, and E. To me, I don't like to speak this way, but I'm being honest. I'm always honest. It smacks of weakness. President Trump doesn't project weakness pretty much ever. But if he says to them, cool it a little bit and we'll get out, it lets them know that they're on the right path. If we don't cool it a little bit and promise to let our our local and state law enforcement officers do the jobs here that Trump wants, if we keep up the chaos, he's going to back out. He's already indicating this much. of a willingness to back away and to pull his troops out of there. That cannot happen. If President Trump tells Tom Homan and Kristi Noem to get the federal ICE agents out of Minneapolis, no matter how they spin it, it will go down as the way for the left. From this point forward, what is the way that we defeat Trump and stop Trump and keep our millions and millions of illegal aliens in this country and getting access to the vote, getting access to the franchise when they should never be franchised? This is the way. We create the chaos. We drive his people out of our cities the way they did in Minnesota. And now we're undisturbed and we can get back to the process of stealing elections. And if you don't think this is about elections, like I said, then you have not been paying close attention at all. It is about elections. Caroline Levitt said one more thing that I want to share. Maybe I want to stay on the elections topic. I think I'm going to not play this one right now. All right. Because I did mention elections and what the illegal aliens in this country and the massive numbers of them, including 12 to 20 million who came in during the 4 years of Biden, what it's all about is having congressional apportionment affected by the census, obviously giving Democrats far more blue seats in Congress, and then also outright giving these people the right to vote. And without Republicans being willing to step up and stand up in the Congress by way of the upper chamber and to pass the SAVE Act to prove citizenship before you can even register to vote. The fact that they won't do anything about it is again, what emboldens the Democrats to try to fight to keep their illegal aliens here, because they're ultimately going to be able to vote. They already are in many places. And they're going to be able to do so even more once we defeat this SAVE Act and once we stop them from actually being able to force people to prove that A, they're citizens when they register, and B, that they are who they say they are with photo identification when they actually go to vote. The Republicans can stop that. The Republicans can make sure by passing the SAVE Act. John Thune won't even bring it up for a vote. And it's possible because there are some recalcitrant Republicans in the United States Senate who won't vote for it. What elected official can possibly justify to constituents that we don't want to make people prove that they're American citizens before they cast votes in an American election to decide American representation and thus American leadership? Who could possibly, Republican or Democrat, say, "Nah, let the foreigners decide"? Wait, what? But that's what is happening, and the Republicans are looking the other way. I warned you about John Thune. I warned you about John Thune when Mitch McConnell finally got the boot and stepped down from the leadership position. I told you John Thune was going to be a problem, and this might be the biggest problem that we have seen from him so far. All right, speaking of elections, as I said, this is the perfect segue to bring on our guest. I told you this morning, and I even threw it out last night, that we wanted to talk about Turning Point. Turning Point post Charlie Kirk. Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action, driven to continue to advance the mission of Charlie Kirk in his life before his horrific assassination. I'm wearing today's Freedom hoodie in tribute to Charlie, of course, and to Turning Point, because I knew we were going to talk with Northeast Ohio field rep for Turning Point Action, Brandon Rossi, who's in the green room right now. And there he is. Brandon, good morning.
Good morning, Bob. Glad to be on.
I appreciate you coming on. You like the look? Does that fit all right?
I do.
I wanted to buy it from Turning Point. I didn't buy this at all. In fact, it was a gift. A coworker of my wife's didn't fit him, so she gave it to him. I'm sorry, he gave it to her because he knew how much of a supporter and a fan of Charlie I was, and they gave it to me. It's a knockoff, and I don't like that. I don't like anybody depriving money from going to raise funds for Turning Point. But on the other hand, it was already printed and bought, so I'm wearing it because I like the message and it inspires me. Every time I see myself in a mirror, an image, or look down, I see and I think about Charlie Kirk. And this is, of course, I guess, the lasting legacy I think that he will have for people for a long time. The word freedom will forever be associated with Charlie. So I just figured I'd wear it since we're talking to Turning Point Action today, and I know you get that. So
Yeah,
So
if you want to buy merch, tpaction.com. It should be available.
beautiful. That's what I'm talking about right there. What's funny about it is at the top of the show, and I told the story and I won't rehash it again, but at Christmas time, actually is in November, my wife and I gave each other little ideas of things we would like for Christmas from one another, what have you. And I put down about 6 or 7 items from Turning Point. Guess what? Backlogged until like April. It was that was the response to Charlie's, assassination. So many people want to represent what he was wearing at the time of his death. And all of that stuff was backlogged. It wasn't going to be available except for like 16 weeks. So that's what sent a whole lot of people to the knockoff brands just to get these things. And so it is what it is. All right. So Brandon, I'm so glad to have you on. I have met you and listened to you speak at a few different events around Northeast Ohio over the course of the last year or so. And I've been extraordinarily impressed, which is why we connected with one another, because I eventually knew I was going to try to have you on what was then a radio show and is now my podcast, to talk a little bit about TPUSA and to talk a little bit about Turning Point Action. And now I know that there is a difference, and I know what the difference is, but I want to hear you put it in your words so people understand that it's not all, it may be all under the Turning Point umbrella, but there are two different organizations with different missions. Tell us about that.
So Turning Point USA, many of the listeners have heard of it. That's the 501c3 that Charlie Kirk founded to promote conservative and patriotic values on college campuses and in high schools. You may have heard someone say, I want to start a Turning Point USA chapter. And they can work with their field reps or go on tpusa.com if they are interested in doing that. But Action, I'm a field rep for Turning Point Action. And Turning Point Action is the 501c4 that Charlie Kirk founded, looking to get more conservatives elected and engage with the conservative movement at a grassroots level. We do things like getting people registered to vote. Maybe you've been at a gun show in Northeast Ohio and saw a Turning Point Action table with some voter reg forms, and then also some coalition sign-up forms. And also, one of the things I like to do is there's a critical office that a lot of people don't know about in Northeast Ohio. That's to be on your Republican County Central Committee, and that's like all of Ohio, not just Northeast Ohio. And I like to help people in that process so they can have a voice in their local Republican Party.
We'll come back to Central Committee, and we'll talk about why there are so many vacancies for those positions, which is really important. But let's go back to what Turning Point Action does, because when Charlie was working so feverishly for all of 2024, and obviously before that too, but for all of 2024 to get President Trump elected and to get Republicans elected to various congressional seats and congressional districts, was he operating in the capacity of Turning Point Action? Because when you do what you just described as Turning Point Action is about winning elections, Turning Point USA, TPUSA is more about the cultural stuff, right? And the changing the culture, talking to people on campuses and so forth.
Yes, Turning Point Action made a critical impact ahead of that critical election, especially in the states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, as well as Arizona. So yes, that would have been Turning Point Action. And by the way, later this year, there will be opportunities in Ohio to knock for Turning Point Action as well. So I certainly hope that people get involved with coalitions and reach out to me, because later this year, there'll be a ton of opportunities to knock.
I'm glad to hear that. And I know a lot of people will. What I want to ask is, that the tide that seemed to turn somewhat, not that it was all in one fell swoop, but kind of gradually, grew and into Gen Z, younger voters turning to, Donald Trump and to conservatism, because Charlie had such an extraordinary personality and ability to connect to those young people. We wouldn't have won. The conservative movement in this country, which is the constitutional movement in this country, would not have won had it not been for Charlie and Turning Point Action's work and Turning Point USA's work on the campuses, talking to young voters, 18 to 22, telling them, maybe things that they're not going to hear in their left-wing indoctrination center campuses. It was such an extraordinary part of all of this. So what are you guys doing now at TP Action to continue to keep that Gen Z movement going, in our direction? Because according to some, and it might be anecdotal, But according to some of the things I've seen online, the young voters that came over to Trump and to, conservatism in this last election are already drifting away and already moving perhaps back. I don't know if that's true or not. Like I said, and it might be anecdotal, but what is Turning Point Action's view of that, and what are your thoughts about how to make sure that the people who came aboard on 2024 in 2024 stay here on this side of the aisle?
Yeah, I have a growing Gen Z coalition. And for those listening, Gen Z, a lot of estimates put it as those born between 1995 and 2010. I've also seen the estimate of 1997 to 2012. But we have the Gen Z coalition, and I'll have different events where I'll bring in guest speakers, and they get to ask the questions and kind of have that dialogue that was really important that we saw Charlie bring about. And the Gen Z coalition looks to engage Gen Z. And I've noticed, as now I'm speaking personally, that Gen Z is more conservative than the millennial generation. And I think a lot of it had to do with, and of course, these are my personal thoughts, when the Biden administration, we saw the rapid increase in the price of homes. And people in Gen Z just wanted to buy a home, get married, start a family. And they saw it was like significantly harder to do. And also the high gas prices that hit Gen Z hard as well. And Gen Z was becoming more conservative. They wanted common sense policy. They wanted common sense immigration reform. Gen Z didn't want our border to be totally open and have millions of whoever wants to show up come into our country. And so Gen Z became more conservative, experiencing the things under the Biden years. And I have certainly seen that on the ground. And what I want to do is I want to take some of the passion that Gen Z has, right? Because they might just be going on TikTok, liking TikToks or liking reels on Instagram that they agree with. And I want to say, all right, let's get you door knocking, or let's get you on your Republican County Central Committee so you can start to steer where things are going locally. And I kind of want to take that passion that they have and make sure it's not wasted. And I want to get them engaged so it makes a difference for our country.
Why do you think that that Gen Z is more conservative than the millennial generation?
I think growing up during the Biden years, I think it made a lot of people more conservative. I mean, everything from being forced to take a vaccine that might be dangerous to that was dangerous, forced to do all these things. And I think the border thing too, Gen Z wanted secure borders. I mean, it's common sense. Every nation that stands must have secure borders. And the other thing is jobs. So you see some people in Gen Z graduating college, right? And of course, these are my personal thoughts. Hard to find an internship, let alone a full-time career. And they have opinions about things like H-1B visas and our jobs being given away, when Gen Z just wants to find a career, work hard. They want to be able to buy a house. They want to be able to start a family. And I think that some of the shifts that happened under the Biden administration, some of really the American dream beginning to fade away for them, I think it made them more conservative.
I'm still trying to figure out how, though, Brandon, because all reason and common sense would say that a generation that is being raised to go through from K through 12 the way K through 12 is now, and much less if they go to college, where the radicalization is unlike anything any generation that has preceded them faced, including the millennials. It was not this wildly radical political environment in literally kindergarten by teaching kids about, trans and different identities and different pronouns and so on and so forth. They've got these rooms decorated a certain kind of way, and all of this. There is no such thing as an illegal person. No person is illegal. People have the right to come and go, where they, when they please, where and when they please. And, immigration is not something to be viewed as being negative. It's something that is positive. Diversity makes us stronger, and all this stuff that these kids are just being filled with. There's no such thing as objective truth anymore. It's whatever you want it to be. That's their K through 12 experience now. Then they go to college, and then it really gets going on steroids. Everything I just described at times 10. And if you want to get a great passing grade in this class, Professor, communist says, you better repeat this stuff back to me. And then the stuff starts to become ingrained in them. So I'm just shocked, Brandon, that despite that avalanche of indoctrination from literally ages like 5 to 22, that this generation can push all of that away and be conservative at all.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the statistics that Gen Z is becoming more religious, going to church
Yeah,
more, and
yeah.
getting into the Bible, the good book. I have my Founder's Bible right here, which I love to read. I recommend it to anybody. And I think that when you get the biblical worldview, you get the Word of God. When it talks about like the wisdom that comes from God in the Bible, I think that people become more conservative. You don't have a choice to be conservative if you're going to believe in Scripture. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, "Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way by taking heed according to thy word." And I think that when our generation became more religious, they have no choice but to be conservative. If you're going to faithfully live by Scripture, your only option is conservatism.
Brandon, I'm glad you said that because I'm going to share something with you right now. I haven't yet played for the audience before you came on, but I want to play it now. This is, do you know the name Jennifer Welch, Brandon?
I believe I've heard it before.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't, because that means I know who she is. And anybody else who knows who she is knows what you're in for right now. So Brandon Rossi, Jennifer Welch has become one of the most well-known and loved on the left liberal personalities in the podcast world. She's basically become a political pundit. And she is one of the most vile creatures you probably will ever lay eyes on and open your ears to. Evidence of that is what I'm about to share with you. And it's directly related to what you were just talking about our young generation becoming more religious, becoming more invested in the Bible and biblical teachings and biblical life. And this is what Jennifer Welch, this is what things are like on the left.
So when you think about the Erica Kirks, the Life Church, the Joel Osteen of it all, and their desire to accumulate wealth while hoodwinking their flock into thinking they're super moral. This is a cancer. White evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country. These are the worst people in our country.
White evangelical Christians are a cancer. They are the worst people in our country. I think she just described Charlie Kirk, by the way. But Brandon, how do you respond to that?
Obviously, this is an attack by Satan on the family unit. I mean, obviously, she's talking about the families that go to church on Sunday. You have married parents raising strong children, raising them up in the Word of God. And she doesn't like that, apparently. She doesn't like that kind of structure for our country. And it's the structure that works, and it's the structure that has worked. A man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. Talks about how children are a heritage from the Lord. They're a blessing from God. And it's a good thing to go to church. I mean, even the Bible, it says, "Forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as is the manner of some." And I think that there's power that comes from that lifestyle that she's describing, where you go to church, where you are religious, where you maybe even evangelize a little bit and try and get some of your fellow countrymen to believe in the Lord. That's the kind of thing that she doesn't like, is what saves and preserves our nation. It's what creates strong families. And like for a second, I was like, "Whoa, am I listening to a Bolshevik here or something like that?" Like I think that Satan knows and the left knows that there is a strength that comes from God. They see, even if they don't understand it, they see that there's a strength, there's a confidence, there's a light. Just like when you read the Old Testament, you see the prophets rising up, even though all their circumstances said, "Be quiet, don't say anything, don't stand for God's truth." And then the one prophet said, "Well, but his word was like a fire in my bones." And they don't like to hear the truth. They don't like to see us contend for the truth. They don't like to see us especially stand for the truth in politics. They really don't like that. They don't want God's word in any of the schools or anything like that. And so they want to guilt us into being quiet. But just like in the Old Testament, God's word's a fire in our bones, and we will continue to share the truth, and we will continue to contend for conservative ideas. And the other thing is, what's behind this, right, is forever we've had the idea there is just male and female, right? That a child's born male or female, and that's it. And the left is trying to bring all these gender lies and all this insanity and confuse children about even the most basic thing, that there is male and female. And we say, "Hey, the word of God right here, it says you're born male or female." The left cannot stand that. That statement alone would trigger most leftists. Their blood pressure would be going up. They'd start to sweat. They wouldn't know what to do from that statement alone. And our country is built on the rock. of the Word of God. I believe one president said the Bible is the rock on which our republic rests, and they're trying to push all that out, and they cannot stand it. But at the end of the day, the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, so they're not going to have much luck winning.
Yeah, it's a great response, and you very clearly and articulately described who they are and what their mission is. There's no doubt about that. And she said white evangelical Christians are the worst people on earth. I'm a white Catholic Christian, not evangelical, but I'm a white Catholic. And I guarantee you, if you were to ask her, she would say, yeah, him too, and them too, because basically anybody that does believe in God, that does believe in the Christian God, does believe in the Bible, is public enemy number one for these radicals, the Marxists who intend to break up, you talked about it before, break up the family. The agenda is very, very clear, and they have gotten much more brazen in their promoting of those messages, which is why the need for Turning Point Action and Turning Point USA is so great, and why we have to continue to recruit more and more young people to be a part of those organizations. To that end, I know you've got a couple of events coming up in Northeast Ohio. I'm going to ask you about those in just a moment, Brandon, as I give this quick timeout. This episode is brought to you by Mark King and Keeping Medicare Simple. Medicare Advantage open enrollment is happening right now through March 31st. And if you're on Medicare, this matters to you. And if you're in Northeast Ohio, I want to personally recommend someone I know and trust, Mark King. I've known Mark for years, and I've referred Medicare recipients to him time and time again because he puts people first and keeps Medicare simple. If you're thinking about switching Advantage plans or even returning to original Medicare, call Mark's office today at 440-832-8936 to schedule an appointment. And for clear, easy to understand information, visit the user-friendly website keepingmedicaresimple.com. When it comes to Medicare, I trust Mark King, and you can too. And thank you to Mark King for being one of our foundational sponsors for Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Your support is unbelievably appreciated. And any other sponsors, by the way, who would like to join us and be a part of this growth of this impactful movement that we have here on this podcast, please, by all means, reach out to me and we will talk. Our guest right now is Brandon Rossi. He's a field rep for Turning Point Action here in Northeast Ohio. Brandon, you've got a couple of things coming up that you want people to know about, and tell us about this.
Yes, and if you want to find these events, if you find me on Facebook, it's Brandon Rossi, and then it's me with like an American flag behind me, and I have a mic in my hand. But Thursday night, we have a Faith Coalition event. So at Turning Point Actions, we have coalitions, and this Faith Coalition event is in Stark County, and it's at Mulligan's Pub as well. And if you want to come, the doors open at 6 o'clock at Mulligan's Pub this Thursday night. That'd be January 29th. And the event will start at 7 o'clock. We're going to be hearing from some state reps, and you could ask them questions. We're going to have Q&A, have a great dialogue back and forth. I'm also going to make a pitch for Central Committee there and try and get more people involved. And then also Friday night, we have Patriot Night in Lorain County. And that's going to be at, I believe, 5300 Baumhart Road, but you can actually go on my Facebook and see the address and plug it in. That will start, the doors will open, I believe, at 6 o'clock. And we're going to hear from some awesome state reps and a county commissioner. And if you're looking to get involved with Turning Point Action, you want to do things with us later this year, this is a great opportunity to get your foot in the door, whether it's at our Thursday night event in Stark County or our Friday night event in Lorain County this week.
Yeah, Lorain County, you're in my neck of the woods. That might be something I have to do a little drop in on because that's great. Since you brought up your Facebook page, I went ahead and punched it up real quick. So let me throw this up there. And I noticed a couple of things on your Facebook page. First of all, there's your cover photo. Can you tell us who that guy in the middle is? I think people recognize him. And who else is in your crew here?
Yes, so that was actually about 2 weeks before the tragic events of September 10th. That was, I believe, at the Delaware County Lincoln Dinner where Charlie was speaking, and he was going to be the keynote speaker. And right before, I learned I had an opportunity to meet Charlie Kirk, which I was absolutely stoked. And I remember we walked up, we were about to meet him, and I remember he was meeting with Vivek Ramaswamy. And I was just waiting, and every second felt like forever. I was like, man, when do I get to meet Charlie? And he came out, and I got to shake his hand, get a photo, and he said, do you want to have a meeting real quick? And so we got to sit down and talk to Charlie, and it was amazing. I thank God that I got to meet him. And yeah, there's Charlie Kirk in the middle, And then some of my other field reps. So PJ Riley, he's on the end. He is the field rep for the Columbus area and also the Southeast Ohio. And then Brianna Maller, she's Northwest Ohio. She's also a field rep. And then my wife is right beside me.
I got to tell you, that's a fantastic picture. And the story about meeting Charlie, too, that's amazing. And he wanted to sit down with all of you guys. It's one of the reasons I have such an admiration for him and why I will remain a steadfast supporter of TPUSA and TP Action. Because, and like I said, and I hope that's the same thing for everybody, that his message lives far, far, far longer than he did. And that the world-changing type of organization that he built does indeed change the world. The other thing I noticed, Brandon, on your Facebook page here is I'm looking down here under personal details, and somebody had a birthday yesterday. So happy!
Oh yeah, thank you. I turned 25, quarter century.
Wow, that's fantastic. And happy birthday to you. You're 25 years old and you are already on a mission that is so incredibly important. And I just really want to give you kudos for what you are doing with your life, and the fact that there are other young people like that photo shows that there are so many others who are doing the same thing. And that gives me hope, especially at a time where there's a lot of darkness, a lot of chaos, and a lot of forces. I think you said it right earlier, just Satan working very, very hard to destroy that which is good, true, and beautiful. You guys are working very, very hard to change that. And you have to. Your generation is key, the key to all of this. So Brandon, let's talk a little bit more about the State Central Committee. You brought it up earlier, and I said we would return to it because there are a lot of vacancies. And tell us about these positions and why they matter so much.
Yeah, so every county in Ohio has its own Republican Party that is steered by the Republican Central Committee. So think you have a county party, and so each precinct in that county has its own spot for a representative on your county party, right? And so these representatives will meet at county central committee meetings and vote on critical things like party platform. What does your county Republican Party stand for? Also, they'll vote on things sometimes some county parties can endorse, and they vote on things like endorsements. Other times, you will have a countywide office occupied by a Republican go vacant for whatever reason. And then sometimes the Republican County Central Committee will vote to see who is appointed in that spot in the county. So these are critical things. A lot of people don't know that they have a county central committee. I guarantee you that there are people listening in Ohio that their precinct is vacant. I heard as of 2022 nationwide, these kind of spots, they're called other things in different states, but I heard there was a 50% vacancy rate nationwide. I have found in Ohio, some counties, it's not as bad. Some counties have more filled than others. Some counties have almost all of them filled. Other ones, roughly half, are vacant. So basically, let's say you're listening, you're a passionate conservative, you want to start making a difference on a local level. You can actually call your county Republican Party and you can find out, you give them your address or your precinct number, and you can find out if your spot is vacant on Central Committee. If it is, you can be appointed. There are different ways that county parties appoint you on Central Committee, but then you can start making a difference when they make these very, very important decisions. And for a lot of people, being on the county Republican Central Committee is the first step in their political journey. So, some people start out there. You may end up as a state rep. You may end up as a state senator. You have no idea where God might take you after that. But if you're really looking to get involved in your local party, this is one of the best ways to do it. And I encourage you. And by the way, if you want help with this, you can reach out to me on Facebook. If you're like, I'm trying to figure out my county central committee situation, I'd be glad to help. Or you can call your county party directly and ask if your precinct has a vacancy on the central committee.
I apologize for being slightly distracted as you were speaking, Brandon, but as I was looking at you, I couldn't help but see over your left shoulder. Is that the same painting that I have over mine?
Oh yeah. Ray Simon painted it.
It is.
Yeah,
You have
Ray's a friend of mine. He's an awesome guy.
He is indeed. As you can probably see now, we have a split screen here. So if I do this, maybe you can see. I've got two of Ray's paintings. I've got President Trump's portrait there, and then that mural that he did of Charlie. And I just realized a second ago that you had the exact same thing up on your wall behind you. That's fantastic. So Brandon, let's talk about 2026. in Ohio first, and then you can just give me your opinion as you are monitoring things and watching things. November decides whether or not we continue as a republic, I believe. If things don't go our way, and I'm talking mostly about the federal elections here, you can talk about the Ohio elections as well if you want, but we lose in November, we lose the country. I said that back in 24 for the presidential cycle. But now that Trump, is in his second year, if the Democrats take over the Congress in November, we know what the last 2 years of the Trump presidency is. Nothing will get done. Nothing but impeachments and investigations of probably every cabinet member, not to mention Trump himself. And they will literally put the brakes on a growing, roaring economy. They'll do everything they can to make things miserable for those last 2 years so that they can take over in 28. And then when they have the trifecta, we know the drill. We know the threat. They will do what we won't do, which is abolish the filibuster and then add states, pack the court, eliminate voter ID, allow, mail-in balloting. Hell, they may end up allowing text message voting, because I know that's what one of them has actually said. The point being, we'll never regain power if we lose. And we don't want power. I want to be clear about that too, Brandon. I know you get this, but we don't want power for power's sake. That's not what I mean when I say power. I mean the power to keep the government the heck out of our lives, to allow us to do what we were constitutionally given the rights to do, God-given rights enumerated by our founding fathers in the Constitution. We just want the power to be left alone and to not be overly controlled by government. And we're never going to regain that power if we lose it this November. That's my view. Tell me yours, and then tell me what you think. It's early, it's January, but November is 10 months away. What you think is going to happen in November?
So my personal thoughts on the matter are similar to yours. This is very, very critical. The radical left just wants to stop all the progress made by the Trump administration. We see measurable wins. For example, the lower gas prices. We remember paying so much under Biden to fill up our tank. We see all these amazing things Trump's doing with the drilling for oil, all these trade deals. The left just wants to drag Trump through court and impeachment after impeachment and waste his time so nothing can get done. And that's why we need all hands on deck. We need literally on election day, everybody get there. You have to vote. I want people to knock for Turning Point Action too later this year as well. But I know that the left wants to do all kinds of insane things. And I think that I want to be able to stress how important this is, because some people get this perception that's like, hey, Trump's our president. We did our work in 2024. We can just relax. Is this midterm thing that important? Well, it depends. Do you want the Trump agenda to continue? Do you want to see the wins that we're seeing now continue, or do you want it to be totally hindered? And I believe, now I'm speaking personally, of course, I believe they would totally get rid of the filibuster. I know that there is some debate on that right now among Republicans. They're trying to have some kind of moral posturing and look like, oh, we believe in this. We're not going to eliminate the filibuster. The left would absolutely do it immediately. I have no doubt that they would do that.
They already tried it. They already tried it. So that's how we know. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they try it again. Because now they don't have the Manchin cinema, blockade, if you will, from getting it done. So if we give them the power and the majority, they will absolutely seize it for all time.
Yes. That's why it's so critical. We need all hands on deck. And I believe with God, all things are possible. And I believe, just like a lot of people were like, oh, Trump can't win in 2024. You remember that. You remember the polls and all these people saying it was impossible. He wasn't going to win. And you heard all of it. And you're hearing things now like that it's impossible to win in 26. But it absolutely is possible. It 100% is. And we need all hands on deck, especially in Ohio. And there'll be different really important elections like in Ohio 9. We have to get all hands on deck. And my coalition, so for example, if you join a coalition now, like the Gen Z or the Faith, you come to my events now, hopefully later this year, you will be knocking with me in some awesome super chases.
Coalition of the Faith and coalition of the of Gen Z, the Gen Z coalition, right? Do you guys as a body, does Turning Point Action do primary endorsements in states, or do you kind of just push for the conservative in general elections?
So different things can happen, but right now I personally am focused on the general election later this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know Turning Point Action has the power to do different things, but right now I'm just focused on the general, and I'm sure that information will become available as it comes out. But right now I don't have anything to share in that way.
Okay, I wasn't asking for your person. I'm just wondering because I don't typically endorse people in primaries. I may not like who wins, but I will root and cheer and support and do everything I can to advance that person in the general because I know what it means to lose these elections to people who are no longer viable Democrats, as I knew Democrats growing up. This is a vast Marxist, communist, socialist party takeover that they have endured, and we cannot allow them to have anything close to being anywhere close to the seat of power. And so that's how I view it. So, all right. So Brandon Rossi, Turning Point Action field rep here in Northeast Ohio. You've got an event coming up on Thursday in Stark County and then Friday in Lorain County. Where do people get the details on those again?
Yeah, so you can go on my Facebook page, Brandon Rossi. I've got the flyers for both. Please RSVP. It helps me know how many people are showing up. But yeah, if you just go on my Facebook, Brandon Rossi, go ahead and add me as a friend. And then there are links to RSVP to both events if you want to attend one or you want to attend both. And I should have more event announcements out in different counties in Ohio coming soon.
Brandon Rossi, I feel like Gen Z is in good hands because of people like you. We need to have thousands and thousands more of you, whether you're actually affiliated with Turning Point Action or just working independently on the same goals. But certainly working together helps. So hopefully people will reach out to you and to Turning Point Action and continue to, your part in saving this country. Brandon, thank you, my man.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
You do the same. All right, there you go. Brandon Rossi, Turning Point USA. Like I said, it's the reason I wore the hoodie today. I wear it on select days, but when I'm thinking about Turning Point, and how about it? He had the same painting behind him, the Ray Simon. I told you, I got mine when I was at the Strongsville GOP Christmas party in December, and they were gifted to me. Both of the paintings you see over my shoulder were gifted to me as I met Ray Simon and Ken, his agent, and I knew these were going to be my backdrop for my show. I knew I was going to add them to my set, as you can see. That's Ray Simon's work. I'm going to throw this up here again, just as a reminder, since I brought it up with Brandon. There you go. If you like what you see there are so many more. And these, again, are incredible works of art. These are not photographs. These are not digitally created. This is paint. These are the prints of paintings done by Ray Simon, who's a Northeast Ohio artist who knows the president. Like I said, he's got these paintings up in the White House and in Mar-a-Lago. Each of the ones that I have behind me, by the way, the Trump portrait is in the White House. The Charlie Kirk mural there is in Mar-a-Lago. And you can check those out, as well all of the other conservative, faith, family, freedom inspired works of art by Ray Simon at that website you see on the screen, raysimon.art. raysimon.art. And if you use my last name as the promo code, you'll save 30% off any paintings that you want, your entire order. And when you order with the code Frantz, they will make contributions to this program, to this mission that we are on. Okay. So, like I said, donations are welcomed, obviously, to this program. But when you get something for yourself and then they kick in a gift to this program, it's the best of all worlds. So please go to raysimon.art, and thank you to Ray. And thank you to Ken, the agent who really connected me with Ray and set all of this up. 30% off the art at raysimon.art with the promo code Frantz. And I so appreciate their contribution to this entire thing. So thank you so much. There's a reminder too, make sure you are messaging the show to 10 friends. If you've got 10 conservative friends in your life, every one of them should be here watching this podcast with us every morning or at some point later on in the day. They need to know that they need to hit like, they need to hit follow, and they need to hit subscribe and join. There are 4 buttons that you want to do. And the last one is as important as the others, maybe more so, because that is also one of the financial supportive measures of the show. If you can join the locals community and become an unfiltered insider, that helps us immensely. And so make sure you bring people and tell them to click those buttons. Hit the like, thumbs up, hit the follow button, the subscribe button, and the join button for the locals community. All right. So I want to get a couple of other things going here that I meant to get to and not meant to, but I made a choice to go right to Brandon. We were talking about Caroline Leavitt's press conference yesterday, and Caroline Leavitt was discussing, and by the way, can we just take 1 second here? Let me drop that off the screen. Can we take 1 second here and where's the email, the show link thing? I got to get rid of that for a moment here. Oh, suddenly I cannot find it, but I can't make it go away either. That's kind of strange. Oh, there it is. There it is. Now we can take that off. Okay. Can we take a moment to talk about the amazing Caroline Leavitt before I play this next clip? She is the one who has been the target of so much vile, vitriolic hate, some of the worst things you've ever seen. And mind you, she takes the podium immediately following her predecessor, the Black and Gay press secretary for Joe Biden. What was her name again? Jesse Waters calls her Binder. And of course, I'm talking about KJP. Karine was one of the dumbest human beings to ever address a room full of reporters in the history of the country. That's why they called her Binder, because she came out here with a binder this thick that had the answers in it. Caroline Leavitt takes the podium with nothing. She might have an index card. I don't even know. She might have a Post-it note that she has up there on the podium. But if you notice, she never looks down. She's not reading anything. She's brilliant. And KJP, the only reason I brought up, by the way, the fact that she's Black and gay is because that was her only qualifications for the office, to be the press secretary. She said so. She's historic. There's never been a person who is Black and gay who's been the press secretary. And she reminded us of that all the time. So that's what I call her. That's all she should be known as. Caroline Leavitt should be known for her brilliance and for courage and strength that I cannot imagine. Nobody threw hate at Karine Jean-Pierre. They want Caroline Leavitt to have medical emergencies during childbirth that will cause her grievous injury and put her life and the life of her child in danger. That's what they're wishing on Caroline Leavitt. So when I say, and when people say things like, we are not the same, that's what we mean. We are not the same. These are some just vile, disgusting, reprobate human beings that it's really hard to, it's really hard to quantify. Anyway, I want to share a little bit more of Caroline Leavitt here because she was holding court yesterday at the press briefing, as she does just about every single day. And I want to share this with you because the message needs to be sent. And where is she? There she is. The message needs to be sent that what's going on, again, we were talking earlier about whether or not Trump is starting to show some cracks in the armor with respect to his dedication to the mission in Minneapolis. Caroline Leavitt came out and spoke to that somewhat, talking about why Minneapolis has been and is so different compared to some of these other cities. And this is why Trump has to stand steadfast, I believe. But listen.
7 of the top 10 safest cities in the United States cooperate with ICE. And we've seen historic turnaround in safety in cities that have chosen to cooperate with ICE, that are not just led by Republicans, but also look right here in Washington, D.C. We had a great level of cooperation with Mayor Bowser and the local government, and we have been able to remove thousands of illegal aliens from the District of Columbia, where you all live, so you can thank President Trump for that. The murder rate in Washington, D.C. has plummeted as a result. There were no riots, there were no protests, nobody was tragically killed as a result of that level of cooperation between federal and local authorities. And again, that's all the president is asking for in Minnesota. It's totally common sense.
It is every bit of that. And I'm so glad to have somebody able to articulate that the way that Caroline Leavitt can and does and did there. She wasn't done. I want you to hear this next clip because, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I did with Steve Loomis when he was on. Nobody's talking about the Somali fraud anymore, are they? Do you think it's just a coincidence that 3 weeks after Nick Shirley did his extraordinary expose, dropping a 41-minute video on X and on YouTube of him and his partner and friend Dave who went around from one Minneapolis daycare to another, finding no children and no evidence of it being an operational daycare center. And yet they were all collecting, I think the grand total in that 41-minute video, they accounted for and I think it was $16 million in federal money, our money, my money, directly out of my pocket and yours, given to these centers. 3 weeks ago, that's what Nick Shirley uncovered. 3 weeks later, not a single soul in America is talking about Somali fraud in Minnesota, because everybody's talking about people being shot in Minnesota. Everybody's talking about ICE being attacked in Minnesota. Everybody's talking about whether or not ICE should be allowed to go in and arrest and detain and then deport illegal criminal, no less, illegal aliens in Minnesota. Nobody's talking about the fraud anymore. They want you looking that way because you're paying way too much attention to the money they're stealing that way. Look over there, go look at ICE, look at what they're doing. They're shooting people so that the attention is taken off of the theft. Caroline Levitt was asked about that.
In removing these threats from our country in cities from Los Angeles to New York and yes, Minneapolis. Yet Democrat leaders in Minnesota with sanctuary city policies have actively defied federal immigration law and the will of the people. And as a result of that defiance, 2 Minnesotans have now tragically lost their lives on the streets of Tim Walz's state. It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. Number 1, Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, and all Democrat leaders should turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in their prisons and jails to federal authorities, along with any illegal aliens with active warrants or known criminal histories for immediate deportation. Number 2, state and local law enforcement must agree to turn over all illegal aliens who are arrested by local police. And then thirdly, local police must assist federal law enforcement in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens who are wanted for crimes, especially violent crimes.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there now because obviously that was the wrong clip. I've got so many of Caroline Levitt here that I wanted to play. That was the wrong clip. I decided to let it roll while I hunted down the right clip. I did make that, I was successful in that hunt. Here is the part about the Somali fraud, again, that nobody is talking about anymore because of what they have been able to create, this massive distraction with chaos and violence on the streets of Minneapolis. Here's the correct clip.
What the president is referring to is the fact that you have Governor Walz and again the mayor who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to make this conversation about and smear lies about federal law enforcement who again are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread massive fraud that has taken place in their state. Billions and billions of dollars has been stolen from law-abiding taxpayers in Minnesota, and the administration continues to be very focused on getting to the bottom of it, especially, and the president raised a good question over the weekend with respect to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who now has a net worth within the millions, and one must ask themselves why and how is that possible? Is she connected to the fraud rings that we have seen taking place within her state and her own district? It's a question the American people are raising, and the president believes it's one worth answering.
She's worth not just in the millions, Press Secretary Levitt. She is worth $35 million. $35 million. She came to this country pretty much broke. Not broke. She had a net worth of around, I think they said $60,000 when she came into this country and when she was first elected to Congress in 2018. Somehow in the span of 6 years, she has gone for 7 years now. She has gone from around $60,000 net worth to $35 million. If you go from 60,000 to 3.5 million in 6 years, you are extraordinary. How did you do it? What incredible invention did you come up with that you sold for, to the patent office and are making a ton of something extraordinary happen if you got to $3 million after being worth $60,000? $35 million? I don't care what you invented. I don't care. And she hasn't invented anything, by the way. I'm obviously making a point here. I don't care what you've done. I don't care if you're the best, most savvy investor of all time. And you found a way to buy a really, really cheap stock that took off in 6 years and made you $35 million. Never happened, ever. It is the biggest evidence of grifting and fraud and stealing and theft of dollars that I've ever seen. It's literally that bad. And every investigation. Now, here's the question, and I'm going to be cynical for a moment, so I'm sorry if it makes you angry, but are we ever going to see arrests of people like this for things like this? Everybody's talks about it. I talk about it with Jim Jordan every week. When are we going to start to see arrests? Not just hearings on Capitol Hill, not just condemnation, not just subpoenas, and not just, letters saying we demand this, we demand that. When are those demand letters going from Congress to the DOJ going to be read by the DOJ and saying, yeah, we agree, we're going to go put the cuffs on them right now, and we're going to charge them? When is that going to happen for anybody? That's been the most frustrating thing about the new Trump administration. We counted on accountability, and it just still hasn't happened. I want handcuffs on Ilhan Omar. I want them preferably on her while she's on a plane back to the dirt field hut that she lived in Somalia. That's what I would like to see. But in the meantime, put cuffs on her and take her to trial. Because there is no way she made $35 million legitimately in 6 years. I think everybody knows that. Congressional salary is $174,000 a year. She didn't turn $174,000 a year into $35 million legally. Having said that, the attention is off. The success is real. What Tim Walz and Jacob Frey have been able to do by telling people, get out there, get in the middle of the fray, take the video, take your phones out. It was gonna cause chaos. It was gonna cause violence. It was gonna cause bloodshed. It was gonna cause gunshots, and it did all of those things. And because of that, every single mainstream media news story that is about Minnesota is leading with ICE. It's leading with shootings. It's leading with protests. It's leading with vandalism. It's leading with attacks. It's leading with attacks on hotels where the ICE agents are staying and all the rest. No one is talking about Nick Shirley anymore. Nobody is talking about Somali fraud. Hell, I do a show here in Northeast Ohio, and right after Nick Shirley, I had Mehek Cook on this program because Mehek, an attorney and an activist and a pundit, she went out there to check out the Somali community in Columbus. Along with Jack Windsor and John Rocker came up from Florida to start doing these things too because of the massive Somali population here in Ohio. Nobody's talking about it anymore. And I'm on the air here in Ohio. I'm doing this show from Ohio. Where is everybody? Right? I mean, where's the outrage? Nobody's talking about it anymore. Nobody's talking about it. I'm not talking about it. We're all talking about what's happening. They managed to take the attention away from the fraud and the tens of billions in each state, hundreds of billions collectively of these Somali nationals taking our money and sending it back to Somalia with literally and directly. And I played it, and I'm not going to play it again now. But the Ohio state representative representing, I don't remember what district, but it's in Columbus or near Columbus, Ismail Mohammed, caught on a call to Somali national television saying, yeah, we're advocating for Somalia over here. We are going to, for borrowing the phrase, make Somalia great. We're going to help Somalia waive its debt, which means to eliminate its debt. And the only way to do that is to send back American dollars to a foreign country. So this grift, this graft, if you will, is real. And it is something that is quite frankly unacceptable. But nobody's complaining anymore because we're all talking about what's happening, myself included, with the shootings and all of the violence against ICE in Minnesota. So they did a great job of putting us, changing the subject and putting the grift on the back burner. Okay, let me hop in. Let me hop into the live chat here and see what's been going on there. Obviously, good conversation with Brandon Rossi today. So we want to catch up on what we missed there. I'm going to start out with some of the donors who jump out at me on the screen through the colored comments, the ones with the colored backgrounds. I would like to say what color it is, but I'm colorblind, so I can't tell. Like, seriously. Buckeye Therese, I'm still waiting for my freedom shirts, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's why, like I said, I wouldn't have bought one from one of the knockoff companies because they're selling them from China and they're selling them from, Vietnam and all kinds of places. And I didn't want to buy one from a knockoff company. This was a gift. Somebody else bought it from a knockoff company. It was too big for that, or I'm sorry, too small for that person. So they gave it to my wife because he knew how much of a huge fan and supporter I was of Turning Point and Charlie. So my wife gave this to me, and so I'm wearing it. I'm not going to not wear it. It exists, and I love the message, and I love when people ask about it, and I love, quite frankly, seeing it because it inspires me to be more that way, to be about faith, family, and freedom, which is the mantra. So, but yeah, it said 16-week backlog, and this is back in like November. So we're talking about April to get stuff that people were trying to buy for Christmas from the actual Turning Point USA website. And that's the reason, the authentic stuff is what we should buy, because then the proceeds and the money goes to Turning Point and helps their cause, which helps all of us, but it is what it is. Let's see. Sarah says, Sarah saw it too, the Charlie painting in Brandon's background. You got to get these. I'm telling you, these are phenomenal pieces of art. Go to raysimon.art and pick out whether it's the Charlie Kirk one, the Trump one, the Lincoln one, the Marines one, the Jesus one. I mean, there are so many incredible, inspiring paintings, inspiring the conservative mind of a tremendously talented artist, Ray Simon. And again, put promo code Frantz in there when you buy your painting. You'll save 30% off the cost, and they will make a donation and get a cut of that too, strictly speaking, Unfiltered, to help keep this program on the internet airwaves, if you will. Let's see. Sarah says, I was on Central Committee, then I moved, and now I've moved again. I should see if there are vacancies here. Absolutely. Anybody who's got the time and ability to do that should. So I'm glad Brandon is making these points here. Yo Jimbo said, universities are as bad as Minnesota. Yes, they are. That's a great way to say it. Talking to Brandon about what these kids are growing up in with the indoctrination centers and the universities. Yeah, it's like they're all Minneapolis. Casey John said, I Am Roz says, we need a meet and greet. Yes, we do. And you know what? The first one is going to be an online meet and greet for just the Unfiltered insiders on the locals community. I'm going to put something together where we're going to have a video meet and greet for everybody. I'm going to send out the link. It'll probably have to be by Zoom because I think we can fit up to 25 or so people in a Zoom call. But we're going to have a virtual meet and greet. Just the individuals who are supporters in the locals community. All right. So you got to be a paid supporter to get that. And then we're going to set one up in person. And I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, just because of the centralized location and the fact that so many events are held in Strongsville because of Strongsville GOP, I'm thinking about having a strictly speaking Unfiltered meet and greet with all of you in Strongsville coming up in the very, very near future. So Roz, it's funny you said, I kid you not. I'm not saying this because I just read that from Roz on the post. I'm telling you, I literally sent Shannon Burns an email last night saying, hey, Shannon, once you get done with the candidates nights that they're sponsoring, can we talk about getting a meet and greet, putting together an event where I could actually broadcast this program live from the local or from one of the other places in Strongsville that they utilize, and every one of us can be there and do a meet and greet and do kind of a show together. I think it would be phenomenal. So yeah, Roz, we're on it. We need a meet and greet, and we're on it. Casey John, as city leader, I've filled Central Committee seats, all Central Committee seats except one. If your precinct is not open, you can join the executive committee and have a say in your county. Well said. Jimbo said, what an awful. Sounds like a communist. I assume you're talking about Jennifer Welch. And yes, she is all of those things. What is it about these awfuls? True communist wench, says Lois Irene. Exactly right. For awful, those who don't know, Lois Irene wrote affluent white liberal women. Well, we got to get to get the AWFL, it's affluent white female liberals. But my friend Brian, who's been in the chat, the New American Media, he gave me new alternative words for that acronym. An awful can be an angry white female liberal. That's what Brian suggested. And then I actually changed the L after seeing some of these nut jobs, like the ones wishing horrible things on Caroline Leavitt. I am calling them angry white female lunatics. But we do probably want to get the liberal in there. So angry white female liberals are indeed the threat. Lois Irene says, we have such great articulate young men like Brandon. You were exactly correct. NCN CIG, believe in God or not, biology of humans is male and female. You cannot change that unless you are a total moron. Well said. Politically incorrect mechanic got in late. Good morning, Charlie. Let's see what's going on with the Super Bowl. Charlie asks. I don't know what that question is about, but we can talk about it maybe tomorrow. Let's see. Keep up the great work, Brandon. God bless you. God has absolutely blessed him and all of us because of people like him. I completely agree. Omar's husband has a fake winery with no building. You mean like the daycare? A fake daycare with no children? Buckeye Therese also says Jordan never goes beyond hearings. Well, there is a limit to what he can do, by the way. You know, if you're the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, all you can do is hold the hearings, issue the subpoenas, force the testimony, expose the rot, and then turn it over to the DOJ for action. It's the DOJ that makes those decisions, not Jim Jordan, not the members of the Judiciary Committee or the Oversight Committee. They can refer individuals to the DOJ for charges, but they can't do anything beyond what they do, which is expose all of this, get it on the record. So that's the reason I've tried to give Jim Jordan a little bit of grace for all of this. It's really going to be up to Bondi. Republicans are getting out. Omar is a far better grifter than Pelosi. That is true. Coworker waited for months on her freedom t-shirt from TPUSA. Yeah, and still waiting. How do the protesters know where ICE will be? That's a real, because there's a lot of them. Okay, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Charlie asked what's going on with the Super Bowl. He was asking about what Sarah reminded me here. There's going to be an All-American halftime show that's being put on some channel. I don't know which one, but it's going to be put on some channel as an alternative to the Bad Bunny drag show that's going to be on the actual Super Bowl halftime show, which I still can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but that's what they're doing. So thank you for that. And where was the, how do the protesters know where the ICE will be? There are infiltrators in a whole lot of places, If individuals see ICE congregating in certain areas, I don't care if they're a waiter, a Starbucks barista, or something else. If they see them, they get in their little phone and they tap on their apps. This is where ICE is right now. You know, there's the icebreaker apps and things like that. They have a very well-coordinated network of reporting where they're going to be so that the rabble-rousers and the attackers can come out and do what they do. So it's very sophisticated. The good news is, and I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to save this one. You know what I'm going to do? Please remind me. Send me an email today. Some of the people in the chat room right now have my cell phone number. Send me a text. Remind me tonight to go into the locals community, which is click join to join us there and become an insider. And what I will share with the insiders tonight, and I'm going to set myself a reminder. Kyle Reyes is an American patriot that I've had on this show before it became a live stream, when I was just doing interviews, one-on-one interviews. And Kyle Reyes is a massive law enforcement supporter. And he and his team have done something extraordinary to try to counteract the Icebreaker app and the lunatics finding out where ICE is and where they're going to be enforcing the law and trying to arrest people, as well as where they're staying or where they're eating or whatever while they're in these various cities to try to apprehend the worst of the worst. And it's brilliant. And what they're doing is making a huge difference. I don't have time to get into it right now, but I'm telling you right now, give me a text later on. You know who you are if you've got my number. Give me an email later on. Remind me tonight. I will do this. and I will share what Kyle has done that will make you like just relieved to know that there are people fighting back, but B, it'll make you laugh and freaking cheer at the same time. Because in addition to protecting ICE, it's embarrassing the lunatics in ways that I cannot share right now, but I will share with you tonight. I will go on the locals community and I will do a live, I'll tell you what, I'll do a live stream tonight only on the locals community and only for paid subscribers. Okay, the Unfiltered Insiders. I will share this with you and I'll do it tonight at 9 o'clock. All right? Let's make a date. 9 o'clock tonight in locals. If you're a paid subscriber, I will do another live stream, not a 2-hour one like this, but we'll get together and I'll do a live stream and I'll share what they're doing to counteract those ICE lunatics or the anti-ICE lunatics. All right. You have my word. 9 o'clock tonight. I'm going to set myself a reminder and you can do the same thing. If you do the same thing, rather, it would help me a great deal. All right. That is going to do it. We're going to put that on it here. Hey, though, because I love you guys. And this is a partnership. And I love hanging out with my partners. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Thank you to everybody who is watching, whether live or later on. We're growing. The follower count is stagnant, and it's bothering me because it's about 1.4. It's bothering me. But the views are going up and up and up. We're averaging around 28, 29, 3,000 views per episode, which is very, very good considering our infancy. But the follower count is stagnant. So when you visit here, make sure you click follow and make sure you click subscribe and make sure you join us in the locals community. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. As I always remind you, be well, be safe, and stay free. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Strictly Speaking Unlimited. I'll see you tonight if you're a paid subscriber to locals tonight at 9 o'clock. See you then.